everybody. Welcome back to the 5 O'Clock Sweats podcast, the podcast where we like to talk about the things we'd like to do when we are off the clock, not working. Tonight, it is I, Ryan, and my handsome buddy.
And I, Derick. I don't know why I half morphed into Optimus Prime
I kind of started it with the way I said mine, so my introduction, so all good. But so yeah, tonight it is just Derick and I. We're just gonna be vibing, and we actually are not gonna talk about anime. A nice change of pace. We're going to talk about something that involves like real life actors that aren't hand drawn and animated, like real people.
Yeah, I've heard of these things before, these moving pictures.
Yeah. I mean, the stories are true. They do exist.
Which one did we watch?
Yeah, so Derick and I are big romantic comedy fans. I don't know if you could tell, just if you've listened to any of our other episodes, but we definitely have got a bit of a soft spot for some of those kind of like, I don't know, more melodramatic, mushier, sort of corny, sort of rom-com type movies.
Man, the cornier the better.
Yeah, which is kind of ironic because we picked possibly one of the strangest rom-coms. Don't even know if it is a rom-com, but we are going to be talking about 500 Days of Summer tonight.
Oh Lord,
this movie I've always considered it to be one of my favorite movies ever. It is still up there for me. I don't know where it ranks anymore, but it is still up there for me. This was kind of like my first exposure to like this, I don't know, like I want to say rom-coms in general, and I'm just going to roll with that. Was my first exposure to like this type of like indie rom-com sort of vibe. I watched this for the first time, I believe, in high school, and really just was blown away by like just the movie itself, like really the editing and the presentation of the movie. It's very like eye-catching, it's very snappy and creative. I also just love Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Seeing this movie, I was a fan of his for the rest of his career. And of course, Zooey Deschanel, who became like, I don't know, the apple of everybody's eye, of every man's eye during this time period. Definitely had a little bit of a crush on her after the first time seeing this movie.
Yeah, there were a few lost years in there.
Yeah,
all I could see were her eyes.
When was the first time you watched this movie?
I think it was a little bit after you, because I think I saw it on your DVD copy.
Oh yeah,
freshman year at college. I don't think I'd ever seen it before that.
I still have that DVD. And I do have a poster. You can't see it off screen right now, but there is a poster to my left of 500 Days of Summer that I've had since college.
Yeah, I knew that this was one of the movies pretty high up there on your list, and we were kind of going back and forth on our little podcast group chat about, what we could talk about this episode. And when I saw 500 Days of Summer on that list, I'm like, oh, we have to do that one. Like, you've got some stuff you haven't been able to say to the internet in 14 years, which was the last time I saw it. So let's get those words out there.
I've seen it a few times since then. We were just talking before we started recording. I did watch it, coincidentally enough, on Valentine's Day last year. And then I just watched it, most of it, not all of it, but most of it again in preparation for this episode. But it gets better. I'm going to say it gets better, or I understand it more each time. I have a different interpretation of it each time I watch it. I feel like as I get older and as I've experienced more like life, especially when it comes to like romance and relationships and everything, like this movie just hits a little different every time you watch it.
Does. When I first saw it, I guess we're going 14 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was like an age. I was college age in college.
Yes, we don't have to do the math.
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm kind of avoiding it. But I don't know, bright eyes, bushy tail watching this video. I mean, it still has some destructive capabilities.
Oh, for sure.
Just built into the movie. But I feel like I viewed it with much more optimistic eyes 14 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, just a couple of basic things about this movie. I always like to do some just straight facts about the movies when we talk about them.
And I always love that you do that.
This was directed by Marc Webb. Actually, the same director who did like the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, or at least one of them. I think he did the first one, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh shoot, I see. Yeah, 2012 and 2014.
Yeah, so those movies are pretty good, but I could definitely see like the influence, like the way that the movie's kind of shot, and then just like the overall kind of like energetic and like kind of fast-pacedness of the movie. Rotten Tomatoes, 86% critics, 84% audience, so they were pretty in line with how they felt about this movie. And then IMDb, a solid 7.7 out of 500, still about 581,000 votes or ratings there.
How do you feel about those ratings?
I feel pretty good. I feel like they're pretty accurate. The IMDb 7.7, it's almost an 8. Just round up to 8. It's pretty good.
Yeah, which is what I rated it.
Yeah, and I feel like this is a pretty divisive movie among audiences, so I'm not surprised that the audience score isn't like higher. I figured like between like 75 and 85 would be where it's at, and it's 84, so it falls in that. Makes sense. I mean, this movie is definitely like divisive. There's different interpretations of it, and some people are going to hate this movie, some people are going to love this movie. I mean, I love this movie, and I get the feeling you love this movie too.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty safe bet with my general soft boy demeanor.
Yeah. And Tom, main character, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, a Jersey boy, and not just any Jersey boy. He's from a town that's very close to where we're from.
Yeah, and that was something that I completely didn't catch the first time I watched this. So when I put it on today, they're like, "Oh, Tom from Margate, New Jersey." I'm like Leo on the couch meme. I'm like, "Oh, yeah,
yeah."
It's like we're right down the road from where we grew up.
It's just funny to think that in this universe, Tom is driven by Lucy the elephant. Maybe been to the dairy bar and just hanging out on the beach in Margate like we've done. It's crazy. So I thought that was really. I knew that before, but then just watching it again tonight and be like reminded, like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
I completely forgot. Completely didn't know. Agree. Pretty cool.
So yeah, I want to start off really the conversation tonight with just asking a simple question, just a really, really simple question for you. Is this actually a romantic comedy? Is this movie funny and romantic? I don't know. What do you think?
I'm going to rule in favor of this being a romantic comedy.
Okay.
In that there was romance and there was comedy.
Yes.
Comedy's a little difficult to kind of pick at as a theme in this movie, but I think the romance part is where things start to get a little shaky.
Yeah. Right? This is not a traditional rom-com in the sense that, like, usually rom-coms follow a structure, like people meet. They have,
check.
Yeah, there's shenanigans involved, a lot of jokes mixed in with a lot of like mushy romance. Then there's usually a falling out of some sort. But usually they get back together in the end. There's something that brings them together, or there's a realization that like they're meant to be together, and then all happy, everybody. All sunshines and rainbows for that couple in that movie, and that's how it ends usually.
Yeah, we get that scene.
Yeah, we do.
We just don't get the outcome.
Yeah, so this movie kind of has some of those things. But yeah, I do rule it that in favor of it being a rom-com. It is certainly a rom-com, but it is more nuanced than your traditional rom-com. This movie is very funny. I do think it is really funny. There are some really good like one-liners, some just good scenes in general. I love the scene where they like when Summer and Tom first meet, and Summer's like, yeah, they used to call me Anal Girl because I liked things very tidy and neat.
She was very neat and organized.
Very neat and organized. Yep, there we go.
Yeah, I took a note on that, and luckily all I had to do for my notes was Control F, Anal Girl. Just one hit in the document, luckily.
And then when they're at the bar doing the karaoke, and Summer's like, "Yeah, I named my cat after Bruce Springsteen or after Springsteen," and then Tom's like, "Oh, what's his name?"
Bruce.
And then Bruce, yeah, Zooey Deschanel just really is good at like there's that like deadpan delivery, and then just like kind of just like the way with she looks at someone with her eyes, they're saying something like, "You're a fucking idiot." Like, what do you mean? Of course, his name's Bruce. And then I just love the whole big scene where after the first time Tom and Summer have sex, and then he's just like. He comes out of his apartment, and it's all like, it's like the Hall & Oates song kicks in, and then he's like dancing in the street. There's like cartoon birds on his shoulder.
Yep.
Like everything is like, it's like a dream sequence. I mean, it's basically what it is. It's just, it's like the best day of his life. It's like the afterglow of that.
That was so good. And also a pretty good transition into like the cinematography, I guess.
Yeah.
Because the way they've kind of constructed this movie is that ostensibly there's 500 days that Tom and Summer know each other, and it kind of flips through the different days, but not necessarily sequentially. So we'll see some stuff kind of, in the beginning of their relationship, day 3, day 4 into knowing each other. They kind of know each other's music tastes, and the Smiths, like, I also like the Smiths. Then it'll jump to day 154. I think it's official. I'm in love with Summer. Yeah. It'll jump way back to day 11, day 22, whatever. For this scene, again, flash mob, marching band, cartoon bird. He's dancing, he's singing. And he gets into the elevator at work. The elevator door shuts. And when it opens, it's day 303. And our boy does not look good. He looks depressed.
He has seen some shit. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just love that the format of the movie, breaking it up into days like that and kind of ping-ponging back and forth between the good days and the bad days, really helped that scene hit a little bit more, because it's like literally the best day of his life. Singing, dancing, flash mob.
Yeah.
Just straight hard cut into depression.
Yep. That's probably my favorite part of the movie, is just the way it's edited and the way they tell the story. It's very Pulp Fiction-esque, where it's not linear whatsoever, but it just enhances the story. Like, this movie is not nearly as good if it's just told in a formulaic sort of story, or like a traditional linear story. Like, the way they go about it is just really well executed, makes the movie a lot more interesting. And the title 500 Days of Summer, like, let's go through all the 500 days. Now, they don't go through every day. It'd be a really long movie if that were the case, but
500 days long.
Yeah. But yeah, the way it's shot and the way it's edited, it's perfect. Definitely the best part of the movie, in my opinion, is just that it makes it so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, and I kind of picked up on it, I don't know, maybe past halfway through the movie, which is probably later than I should have. But like, on the timeline between meeting Summer and then the 500th day of Summer, like, you kind of realize that, you're getting days in the beginning, days at the end, and you're getting a lot of days in the middle that really suck. And like, you're still trying to construct the timeline of like when things happened and when they, eventually break up. And like, all the days just kind of converge at that point, I think.
Yeah. And what's actually funny is, I don't know until now, watching it tonight, the scene where they go to the movie theater and they watch The Graduate, and then afterwards he's like, "You want dinner?" And then he's like, "How about pancakes?" And then that's the scene in the beginning.
Yeah.
That takes place right before she breaks up with him, which happens in the beginning of the movie, when she breaks up with him over pancakes. So I don't know. I guess I was just paying extra attention this time, but that like that this just in my head, like, oh, that connects everything. Everything makes sense now.
Yeah, this definitely gets better with second rewatch.
Oh yeah,
because there's just all the little things that you're looking for, and like I hadn't seen the movie in 14 years, and I still kind of knew what to look out for. And I think it made my experience a little bit better.
Yeah, I didn't want to move on from the Hall & Oates scene without saying that. Fun fact, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but in high school, a friend of ours, or a friend of mine, really, did a Mr. Blank, like a Mr. Our high school name, which was basically like a talent show, and his performance was a reenactment of that scene, and I was in it. And we had a bunch of our friends as like the background dancers that you see in that scene, and then we basically copied the choreography to a T. He gets the baseball bat, he swings, people pick him up on their shoulders, and like he's doing like this. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That's
elaborate, yeah.
That's the first thing I think of whenever I see that scene. It's like,
what part did you play in the flash mob?
I think I was too short to lift him up because the other person was a little too tall, so it would have been a little weird. But I was just one of the background dancers. I was just like doing like this or whatever. I wish that video. I wonder if that video is somewhere. If it is, I have to find it. But it's
you've been finding a lot of videos from that era recently.
I know. I gotta.
I believe in you. You can find it.
I hope so. Yeah, so I did mention that the way the format of the movie is probably my favorite part, but what else do we love about this movie? I mean, I have a lot of things written here of just things that I love about this movie.
Yeah, fire them off, Captain.
Yeah. I mean, the performances, I think, first thing, like, this movie, I don't think it really put Joseph Gordon-Levitt on the map because he had been in other stuff before this, but it was probably like the biggest, maybe one of the, I would say it's probably, besides like Inception, maybe one of his biggest movies, or even Looper. Definitely up there. I think this is like the first big indie movie that like really made it big, that really got his name out there and his face out there.
Yeah, I feel like I agree with that.
Zooey Deschanel had done some other stuff before this. She was in, I didn't realize Yes Man came out the year before this. I always feel like Yes Man was after this, but it's not. It's the year before, 2008. This came out 2009.
I don't think I've seen Yes Man.
Yes Man's good. It's good.
All right, basically, I'll put it on the list so that I can see Yes Man.
It's like Liar Liar, except he can't say no. He can only say yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Liar Liar is also my favorite Jim Carrey movie. Just in the side, it's one of my favorite Jim Carrey movies. But yeah, I just think the performances are great. Like Zooey Deschanel and Joseph Gordon-Levitt have great chemistry. And I also love like all the side characters. Like I think Tom's friends are really funny. Especially Mackenzie. Mackenzie's funny. We all have friends like that. We all have that one guy friend that's kind of like the goofball, or like always causing some sort of trouble.
Yep.
I feel like I'm that friend.
Are we both that friend to each other? Is that possible. What's going on here?
But I feel like you're a little more well behaved usually than I am. Chloe Grace.
Speaking of the cast, yes, exactly.
Oh yeah, hit girl.
Exactly that. Chloe Grace Moretz. I saw her name in the credits or whatever, or maybe on the cast list before I hit play. I'm like, oh yeah, she is in this movie, and like I'd seen her in other stuff since then, so it's weird seeing her so young.
Yeah, when did Kick-Ass come out? Kick-Ass, I think, was around. It might be the same year actually.
Kick-Ass was 2010.
Wow. Okay, so this was probably like her first like bigger role. Like, probably. Yeah, definitely kind of got her name out there. I don't know if she's in Kick-Ass without this movie, but she's great. I mean, she just pops in. I think she's his sister. It's not said verbatim, but it's implied that they're siblings.
Yeah.
But she just comes in as like the voice of reason, and she's like this 12-year-old girl.
Yeah, it's really funny how like emotionally mature she is.
Yeah, and she's like talking about all of her boyfriends and whatnot, and the Tom's like, "Who were these people?" He's like the one guy with like Jesus'
like,
abs.
yeah. Brad Pitt's face and Jesus' abs.
Yeah, Jesus' abs.
And she'll say like deep shit or, you know, stuff that she shouldn't know about as a 12-year-old. And then just go and like continue her soccer game because she is in fact a 12-year-old.
Yeah. And she calls Tom a pussy.
It's very good.
A little foreshadowing for her character in Kick-Ass. I love Hit Girl. She's so cool. The soundtrack for this movie is iconic for me. Like, I love all the music in this movie. It really kind of got me into like indie rock, I feel like, or like just indie songs in general. When I like the first time seeing this movie, like Regina Spektor, Tempered Trap, the Smiths, like I know about those artists because of this movie, and I have their like multiple of their songs on my Spotify because of this movie.
Hell yeah.
And that Hall & Oates song, that was the first time I had heard that song, was in this movie.
Really?
Well, I'm going to say that. I don't know 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure, but it's definitely, yeah, I'm going to say I'm like 80% sure it's probably the first time I really heard that movie or heard that song was in this movie. But yeah, I love the soundtrack of this movie. And there's even a little Simon and Garfunkel mixed in there at the end, like towards the end, I think.
Yeah, bookends.
Yeah. Another great song.
I just pulled up the soundtrack, or I Googled the soundtrack. I'm looking at it right now. And I'm like, yeah.
Our friend Google. And then there's just a couple of scenes that I really love in this movie too. I love the sequence when they're like on their first date, when they're just walking, like running through the furniture store or the home store, whatever you want to call it, and they're just like,
it is in fact an IKEA.
Oh, is it an IKEA? Okay.
Yeah. I also called it that because I thought it'd be like generic store, but it is in fact an IKEA.
It's actually an IKEA. Good for IKEA. They didn't get any meatballs though. Any Swedish meatballs. Apparently they're what you get there. Fun fact, I've never been in an IKEA before, so that's probably why I didn't recognize it.
It is an experience. Well, I did have to look out for the big sign that said IKEA in the background. Luckily that did exist. So
okay, well, I guess
that was the only indication I had.
I wasn't paying enough attention then. Yeah, I'll bring well, who knows? Maybe one day I'll bring a girl there, and then it'll be like, oh, no one's ever done this before. This is a completely original idea.
IKEA is an experience, but I think you should experience that experience.
Okay, well, maybe when I get older.
It's happened now.
I do love them just running around and like pretending like they're in the kitchen cooking dinner, and then they go into the bedroom, and then he's like, there's a Chinese family in our bathroom, and that scene's just really cute and kind of funny.
Yeah, that's another little format point with the jumping between days. We see that on day 282 they're in an IKEA, they're browsing for sinks, and he's like, oh, sink's broken. And she like doesn't really react. And he's like, oh, all of our sinks are broken. And she just kind of like walks away. And then it snaps back to day 34. And we see that like really romantic IKEA trip where there's a Chinese family in our bathroom, like you said.
Yep. Shows. Yeah. Just shows like, just shows how much the shit's changed between them. It's crazy.
Yeah. And he goes into one of the fake kitchens, and he pretends to be a husband waiting for his dinner, and Zooey Deschanel is like, oh, our sink's broken. And like you see the inception of the little inside joke that they had that like 2 minutes before you saw it fell completely flat. I think that was also another little two nice days to kind of put together like that.
Bald Eagle, my favorite. That scene, and then I do love, I mean, the most famous scene in the movie is probably the expectations versus reality scene. That scene is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's so well done, though.
That one hurt to watch.
Yeah, because I don't know, because we've all, I mean, if you're a guy, you've kind of maybe been in this situation before, maybe not to this extent, but you like someone, or you go somewhere thinking like, oh, okay, like maybe I've got a shot with this person, and then ends up they're taken, or there's something else that's keeping that from happening. But I just love the way this scene is shot. I love the side by side. I even love the little detail where, like, in reality, he's I guess his expectation was he wouldn't have to climb as many stairs to get to the apartment, but in reality, he had to climb like an extra flight or two because you could tell the reality is behind the expectation by like a couple seconds. So like even in reality, he had to do more work to get to the apartment. He had to climb more stairs.
Yeah, I really like that scene too.
Just a fun scene. It's one of the not a fun. It's fun. It's a fun scene to dissect and then like catch all the little details. Like what exactly is different. Like I can't tell how many times I've paused the scene where like when he enters the room and looks at the people.
Yeah,
they're different in each picture. I'm like, okay, what are the differences here? Really, just the one is like there's not. It looks like there's not as many people. And they're like looking at him and greeting him when he comes in the door with like the guy's like raising his glass.
Yeah.
In reality, like everyone's just kind of doing their own thing. Seems a little more busy, I guess, maybe than he would like. It's not as intimate, maybe.
Yeah, it seemed like in expectation he maybe knew the guy that cheers him, or maybe the sentiment is that, you know, he was actually there to be able to socialize with people.
Yeah.
And I think in expectation, he spends a whole night like talking to Summer and rekindling the flame. And in reality, she's not even really talking to him. So he's just kind of at the party alone until he sees her talking with another woman and he sees a ring on her ring finger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is day 408. So pretty deep in there.
So do you have the math for the day they broke up, and then that day that happens? They broke up like I think they broke up on like day 3, like early 300s or late 200s. I want to say early 300s. So it's been
day 290, but there's no evidence to suggest it.
Okay. So we're going to say it's been about 6 months probably between them breaking up and then that realization, that party sequence for him.
That's tough.
Yeah, it sucks. And I think my first time watching this movie, that was the scene where I'm like, fuck Summer. Like, Summer, you suck. You were the villain in this movie. For sure. But, I mean, was it fucked up of her to invite him to her engagement party?
Is that what that was supposed to be?
I'm assuming it was. I mean, what other party would it have been? I mean, it's not a birthday party. It's not like unless it's just a party.
Well, then why wasn't the guy there?
Good point. I don't know.
I think it's just a party.
You think it's just a party? I mean,
I think it's just a party.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little less fucked up, but still, like, she's wearing the ring. I don't know. I guess her mentality was like, oh, like Tom was ready to be friends again, but I don't know. She was with him long enough where like she had to have known like that was not the case. Like he had not completely moved on.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah, that scene definitely.
We're just kind of flirting with the killing blow here, the coup de grace.
Yeah, that scene definitely hits harder and harder the older you get, and yeah, it just sucks. It just sucks. We've all been we've been there.
Yeah.
Now I love the song playing over it too. The Regina Spektor song playing. I forget the name of it, but it's a really good song. Kind of vibes with it really well.
I believe you.
Yeah. On a lighter note, the penis scene in Central Park. This is like a traditional rom-com scene.
Is it? In what way? Embarrassing yourself in a park?
Yeah, it's like a goofy
the whimsy
scene,
of society.
like a goofy, funny scene with the two, the two leads. Everything's going pretty smoothly. Like they're in love and they're just like being fucking. They're being
cutesy out in public, and they don't care what anybody else thinks because they're in their own little world full of love
and happiness.
And the Smiths,
and the Smiths.
Ringo Starr,
Ringo, Bald Eagle. Yeah. So I kind of hinted at the fact that I thought Summer was the villain, like one of my earlier times watching this. But, we're older now. Time's passed. I don't feel the same way anymore. I don't think she's the villain. I think there's things that she does that are questionable, but I don't hate her character as much as I used to. I think that she is just kind of just a person, and I'll get more into it, but I want to hear your thoughts first. Like, do you think she's the villain of the movie, or what do you think?
I don't think I'm comfortable with the word villain here, for the same reasons that you said. Like, I wouldn't quite call her a villain, but I think that some of the things she does is detrimental to Tom, who is the main character.
Yeah.
And I think I had the opposite reaction of you. Since seeing it 14 years ago, I actually think that watching it now, I think of her more negatively than I did back then. Maybe I had more hope in me back then.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what it is. This is what 14 years has done to my soul.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do feel like we both kind of see a lot of ourselves in Tom to an extent. Even the parts that maybe we don't want, we don't want to see a resemblance in.
Not opening that can of worms.
Yeah, we don't have to do that here, but I guess from that perspective, it's easier for us to see Summer as like the bad person in the movie. Like, why would she, like, how dare she screw with Tom's emotions like that? How can she go from not wanting a relationship to getting engaged in like a 6-month period, if our math's correct?
Yeah.
But, I think, again, as we've gotten older, we just realize that, people are just people, and people change. People change their minds, and that's just part of being a human being. You don't, just because you feel one way one day, you might feel another way the next day or 6 months later.
Yeah. I mean, like you were saying, we see so much of ourselves in Tom, but I think we also see a lot of ourselves in Summer as well.
Yeah.
Right. Especially the whole, like, what did she say at the end with the, it just wasn't me that you were right about? That whole thing?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. She said she woke up one day and she knew. And he asks of what? She says, "What I was never sure of with you."
Yeah, that line also hurts, but
yeah,
it just, she found her person.
Yeah, and I think as a person, you can kind of put yourself in the shoes of somebody that has found their person, and
yeah,
I don't think it's quite so villainous from that perspective.
No, right place, right time. Again, watching this movie when I was younger and having not experienced as many, relationships or anything, you just see Summer as like, oh, she just used Tom basically for fun, and then, decides to get married. Like she changed her mind so quickly. Like, how is that possible? Like, how dare she? But yeah, over the years now, it's just like she just found someone that she was sure about. She just found her person, right place, right time.
Yeah.
But yeah, and in Summer's defense, like, she made it abundantly clear from the beginning, and again,
exactly what I was about to say.
What she wanted.
She drew very clear boundaries, had like set the expectations. Like, this isn't going to be the thing you probably want it to be, Tommy boy.
Yeah,
and it wasn't.
Now, did she?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I guess I should have started the episode with a spoiler alert, but I think it's implied. Yeah, I mean, listen, like, they were very happy for a time. Like, there's some really good, wholesome, cute scenes of them just being a really good couple. You can see, like, oh, they do have a lot of chemistry. Like, there's something there. Then you also see the scenes where they're not so cutesy and they're fighting, or, the scene where Tom punches the guy, which, by the way, that guy, fuck that guy. Like,
yeah, fuck that guy.
What a caricature of like an asshole. Like that guy was. It was really over the top. I don't know, but anyway, he deserved. I'm so happy he got punched in the face because he fucking deserved it.
Yeah,
I did not like Summer getting mad at Tom for that. Like, I get why she was upset, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, in other rom-coms, that scene goes way different, right? He punches the guy,
so, yeah.
They get back, and she's not like that.
She's like, "Oh, you stood up for me. How nice. How sweet of you." And she eventually comes to that realization. She eventually comes around. That's when he leaves, and then she walks to his apartment or drives to his apartment in the rain.
Yeah.
So she eventually came around to that.
I half like and half don't like. I like the fact that she came by to apologize. That's great. But it also does feel a little manipulative. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a little bit. That's kind of like the second part of this question of, is Summer the villain or is Summer the bad guy in the movie? Like, do we think Summer led Tom on?
No.
No? Okay. I don't think she did either. I think she was just enjoying, like, living in the moment, enjoying it, the relationship for what it was at that time.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what she said, I think when they're at the bar hanging out and like in the beginning of the movie when he does karaoke. And she's like, yeah, we'll just like have some fun, and then save the serious stuff for later.
Yeah.
I think that's what she was doing. She was living in the moment. I think some people can view it as her leading him on because even though, Tom said all the right things, like, oh, like I'm fine with casual. Like,
yeah.
I feel like
I think her problem was that she fell in love. And I think that even though she didn't, she says she was never sure with him. I think that as soon as she realized she was starting to fall, that's when she was like trying to back the hell out of it.
Yeah.
For many, many days.
Well, I think, yeah, I guess, I guess that is right. Because I never really thought about that actually. Like, did she actually fall in love? But that does make sense. That the problem was that she was falling in love, and she had to axe that. Yeah. She had to stop that from happening. Like, oh God, what are these feelings I'm feeling? And then you can tell, like, even though like there's like some parts later in the movie like where she's a little more despondent, like it hasn't quite reached like that like complete and utter like apathy, yeah, or like not, yeah, basically apathy. And then I guess seeing The Graduate, and then that just like that ending, which very relatable to this movie in general.
I've not seen it.
Oh, The Graduate is such a good movie. But anyway, that famous scene on the bus when they're leaving, you should watch the movie. But essentially, it's like, oh, like that's the end of the movie. Like, what now? Like we're running away together. Like we love each other, but like, what's next? It's kind of like an uncertainty. Like we have each other, but like, is that enough? Is that enough? Like, is that all that matters? And it's not. Like, I think that's just like there's a lot of messages this movie is trying to convey. But I definitely think the biggest one is just love, or like loving somebody, or like having romantic love isn't like the key to happiness. Like Tom is definitely somebody who he's a hopeless romantic. He thinks that finding like the person, the one, is going to like just make him happy and solve all of his problems, and he's going to feel fulfilled from that. But in reality, it's not. Like, it might do that for a time, but it's temporary. And love is great when it's great, but it can suck when it's not going great.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's just, this movie is just like an honest depiction of love. Like, sometimes this can all happen and it can work out, but a lot of times it doesn't. And Tom had to find the thing that made him truly happy over the course of this movie.
And he landed on architecture, largely.
Yeah.
But also, we see that he's kind of still in the middle of finding what that is. The day counter at the end, when he meets somebody new, goes from 500, resets back to 1.
Yes. But I feel like, well, and then I guess we'll just get into the ending here, but I do... That's a much more hopeful start. That's a much more hopeful one, where like in this movie inevitably it's going to fall apart, but Tom is in a better place when this starts. He's finally pursuing the career that fulfills him and like gives him purpose, whereas before he was writing greeting cards.
Yeah,
kind of says he just fell into the job.
Yeah, he hated his other job, and he met Summer there. He seems to be real jazzed about this new architecture opportunity, and he meets Autumn there.
Yeah. Well, you can see like there's little breadcrumbs throughout the movie. Like he's an architect. Like, yeah. he has a deep love for architecture, a deep appreciation for architecture. Like even like early on him and Summer's relationship, when they're walking through New York and he's pointing out like all the buildings and like the history of the buildings and like the architects that built them, like the scene in Central Park where they're looking over the skyline, and then he draws the skyline on his arm, or like the things that he would change about the skyline on arm, and that's a really cute scene. Even the book that he's reading, like The Architecture of Happiness, on the bus, and then he gives it to her at her party, at her non-engagement party.
Right. He doesn't know whether or not it's a good gift to give.
Yeah.
Fuck that feeling too.
So in reality, like the love that Tom's chasing throughout this movie is, I mean, architecture, but just like doing something he loves, like leading a fulfilling life, and it doesn't have to be because he fell in love or he found somebody he romantically loves. It's because of something else. Love doesn't have to be about like finding your person. It can be about anything, really. Yeah. Just
big
whatever.
Buildings. That's all
Recording
I can think of at the moment.
With your best buddy.
Mostly the buildings thing. no, I'm kidding.
So yeah, I think that's just like, out of all the messages this movie's trying to convey, that's probably the biggest one, is love. Love isn't the end all be all. It doesn't make you happy, but love can also take many forms. Yeah. So I know we got into the ending just a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. So after Tom is recovering from Summer, basically he goes through the grieving period. He's buying what?
Whiskey, orange juice, and Twinkies
or something
at the convenience store, wearing
in his robe,
flip flops and a robe.
Yep. He just one day just decides to pursue architecture, like really put his nose to the grindstone and start like studying architecture and like applying to architecture jobs.
He does quit his job. He quits his job.
Yes.
And then goes through that phase of doing nothing and drinking in his robe.
Which is also that job quitting scene is so good. I love it. It's so well written, and Mackenzie's like sarcastically like clapping, but I like kind of wanted to clap too. Like that was like really well delivered.
He's a really good point too.
Yeah, no, really, really good. But yeah, and then so one day he just like, all right, fuck this, I'm gonna do what I want. I'm gonna pursue what I love, and that's architecture.
Oh yeah, when he quits, he says, "There's enough bullshit in the world without my help."
Without my help.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean, greeting cards are just I was like, that's why cards to me like kind of weird. It's like
especially people. I didn't say this.
Especially people that don't write anything in them, like it's just like from and then their name. Like, I mean, when I get a card like that, I at least write something. I mean, most people I think write something in there, but if anybody doesn't, it's just like, what are we doing? Like, all you did was buy this card for like $5, and then you put your name on it. Like,
what are you going to trust my words over the words of Hallmark Gold Crown?
It's very disingenuous. But yeah, so and I got to comment on Tom's apartment really quick. Why does he have this giant blackboard in his apartment? Like, what are we doing? Like, I mean, it's cool,
know, man.
Was it literally just for this scene at the end where he starts like drawing all the architecture stuff on it?
I mean, it kind of has to be, right?
I guess it's cool, but unless he had that built, I don't know.
Unless he had that built.
Had that built when he moved in. I have no idea. You just so happen to have the one apartment with a giant blackboard in it. Perfect like, for architecture. Perfect. Perfect. This will come in handy when I want to brainstorm greeting card.
When I eventually quit a job I probably don't have yet when I'm getting this apartment.
It'll be very dramatic. Yeah, and then he goes all out. He just dives right into architecture, and then there's a scene where he's got his Inception look going up the stairs with his slicked back hair and the suit.
Yeah.
But then he does see Summer one more time in the park, and that's where she tells him, like, oh yeah, just like I wasn't sure, like I was sure about him, or I woke up and realized what I wasn't sure about you, right?
Yeah, something like that. What I was never sure of with you. Day 488.
Yeah. So we get some good closure there with her. And then he goes to this job interview. And then there's another woman there. And guess what her name is? You've already said it, but if anybody who didn't hear that earlier, her name is
June.
Winter. No, it's
great.
It's
name.
autumn.
French.
It's autumn. It's autumn. And then they're like, and they're competing for the same job, but also he asks her out afterwards. And I just got to ask, do we like the way this movie ended? Because I used to not like the ending so much. I thought it was a little cheesy.
I'll say I do like the ending. One, because we do see some growth from Tom. I think he's walking away to this interview and he goes back to his old way of thinking and telling himself like, it's not worth it. Like, it's not going to work out. And then he stops that thinking, turns around, and then goes to ask her out.
Yeah.
And I think that like that change in Tom and then the days resetting from 500 to 1 does represent progress for Tom. And I like that for him.
Yes, I agree. I think my biggest gripe was that the woman's name was Autumn. I was like,
a little bit too on the nose.
Yeah, but I guess
the
it makes
only
sense.
Reason I can't criticize that is because I do the same thing when I'm writing for our D&D campaign.
Well, yeah,
I pick some shit that's right on that nose. Boop.
The rom-com fan in me should love it, and I do, and I actually like it now. Well, like watching it now, but back in the day, was not as big of a fan, but now I do like the ending, and it just makes chronological sense with the seasons. Like, you got summer, and then you have fall, autumn. So it just makes sense that she would be the next one. Hopefully there's no winter. Hopefully it's just autumn, and then they lived happily ever after. That's that's my headcanon, is that they were happy. And
I hope so.
Tom's in a better headspace. Like, he's moved on from summer. He's pursuing a career that he is actually passionate about and loves and feels fulfilled doing. So I just think like this version of Tom loves Tom and also can love someone else.
Yeah, because he does love Tom.
Because he loves Tom. And that's important too. Gotta love yourself before you love someone else. All right, well, that was our discussion on 500 Days of Summer.
Dude, I'm happy I rewatched this after 14 years.
Again, this movie hits different every time I've watched it. I don't know what number viewing this is, but I'm gonna guess it's like maybe the 6th or 7th viewing for me. This movie still sits. It's firmly in my top 10. Is it in my top 5 still? I don't know. But in regards to like rom-com or romantic movies, it's probably towards the top, if not still my favorite. I just like how nuanced it is, and I like how it's not like a traditional love story, which the narrator says in the beginning.
Yeah, this is the story of boy meets girl, but you should know up front, this is not a love story.
But it is a story about love.
It is.
And that's what's important. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, this movie is going to get... I'm going to say it's going to get a 8.5 from me.
Ooh, hitting the 0.5s too.
8.5. And why is it not a 10?
Okay. Why is it not a 9?
I don't know. That's a great question. 8.5 feels right. It just feels right.
Yeah, not quite a 9, better than an 8.
I think maybe, I don't know. If there was like maybe like one more cutesy scene or like one more like really funny scene, I would like it even more. I would like it even more. I don't know.
Just the way you said that was so funny.
Or if there was
like it.
Or like another scene with the greeting card manager, because he's funny.
Yeah, Agent Coulson.
Agent Coulson, yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with 8.5. Maybe I'll edit that rating in the future, but right now it's an 8.5, and that's damn good. Damn good.
When I watched it today, I gave it an 8.0 rating.
That's solid.
This, I feel like I kind of agree with you. I wanted a little bit more. I wouldn't say that it was lacking the things that I want. I just wanted more of them. Like you said, more cutesy scenes, and then also to go along with that, like more gut punches. You know what I mean?
I do feel like there's more.
Feel something.
Yeah, there's more gut punches and more like bad than good in this movie. And when I say bad, I mean like more bad times in their relationship that's shown.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably purposeful, but I mean the good times look good, but I think one more like really juicy scene with them just being really cute would have really helped sell me more that Tom was just head over heels in love with this girl.
Yeah.
Like, and then just make that whole expectation versus reality scene even more heartbreaking than it already is.
Oh boy. Yeah. Like, imagine if Tom and Summer had actually sung What Are You Doing New Year's Eve the way that Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Zooey Deschanel did. Does that mean anything to you?
Wait, say that. Wait, first part again? Say that first part again.
Well, Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Zooey Deschanel sang What Are You Doing New Year's Eve? They put out a video.
Oh, okay.
And if only Tom and Summer had done that, that would have been nice.
It would have been cool to see them sing together, because she clearly said like they both had the karaoke part where they both sing.
He was good.
Yeah, he like
better
is like I think he is a musician of some sort in real life, and so is Zooey Deschanel. So there should have been like maybe a one karaoke scene where they go to the bar and they sing karaoke together. Maybe that's the scene I'm looking for.
Ooh, that would go down real smooth.
Yeah, maybe maybe the song from what's the Rapunzel movie from Tangled? Even though the chronologically
and
that makes no
I
sense
see the
light. We're like in The Shallow. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
None of this makes chronological sense.
Well, there we have it. 500 Days of Summer. Those are our feelings on it. And speaking of feelings, I just, I love her smile. I love her hair. I love her knees. I love how she licks her lips before she talks. I love her heart-shaped birthmark on her neck. I love it when she sleeps. I love it when she comments, and subscribes on YouTube. That feels scummy. I don't like doing that.
I like that. That was really good.
Oh, God,
A+,
capitalism. Yeah, we're 5 o'clock sweats on YouTube. We are also on other platforms. Just search up 5 o'clock sweats there.
Just trust us.
See what the old search bar dredges up. And we are also available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Got anything else?
Penis!
Penis. It wasn't louder. was worse.
That sounded very weird on my end.
Yeah, I was trying to. What I was doing was making eye contact with the clock and seeing how weird my neighbors would find it to hear the word penis being yelled at that time. I don't know if I made any good decisions there or not, but as always,
Tuesday night.
Stay sweaty.
I do have a note here. It's like, just because someone and Chloe Grace's character says this too, but just because like someone doesn't like the same just because somebody likes the same weird shit you do doesn't mean that they're the one. But how many times have we met somebody and they like the same show or like the same song or whatever, and you're like, oh my god. It's meant to be.
I love you.
You also like anime? We can watch anime together and not feel judged? This is awesome.
Oh, this is getting all weird and timey-wimey because I don't know if this is going to be an episode or not.
Well, maybe it will.
Well, if you're hearing this is in episode. Sorry. Oh, fuck. Editor Derick just made that the bonus. Oh.
It's okay.
You hate to see it.
It can be the bonus. It's still in the episode.
Do friendly fire.